Hello everybody. It's another Glasshouse Films presentation of a midnight review with your lovely and semi-bearded host Carson and my lovely and wonderful co-host and partner Sarah.
Yes.
And we're seeing Brie Larson's newest movie, her third this year.
Third. So excited. We have been blessed to see Brie Larson on the screen so many times this year. And once again, we get to see her.
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't get a chance to cover her in Kong Skull Island, which she did a fine job in. But
we did see her in Free Fire.
We saw her in Free Fire, yeah, which we praised her work and a lot of other people's. And this week we are seeing The Glass Castle.
Yes, and I am so excited. So it's based off of the book The Glass Castle by the author Jeannette Walls, and it's an autobiographical story of her growing up. So that's what this is about.
Well, so it's not just someone growing up. She grew up in a fairly unconventional family,
so that's the whole thing. Is her family was very unconventional. Her parents are played by Naomi Watts and Woody Harrelson, and I'm trying to figure out like the best way to explain her family. So like the kids don't go to traditional school. They're pretty much nomads. Like they move from place to place. You get the vibe, even just from watching the trailers, that her dad is running from someone, whether it's like the government or something. And so the book and then also the movie focuses on how, you know, it talks about when she was growing up and all her like adventures with her family, and then her as an adult. And so when the book does it, it kind of goes back and forth between when she was a kid and when she was an adult, and then when she was a kid and then when she was an adult. And I don't know if the movie's going to follow the same format or if it'll just be all like when she's a kid all the way up until she's an adult.
I kind of expect the format of this film to be more she's like writing her autobiography. Beg your pardon. And she's like, oh, I remember this time, as she's writing it, and then instead of watching her write it, we actually like witness her remembering it.
And so what's really also exciting about this movie is it's done by the guy who did Short Term 12, which also had Brie Larson in it, and it's an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. There's a reason it has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a good movie, and I'm really excited to see this director and Brie Larson come together again. I think it'll be really good. So
this is notable for another reason, in that this is the first piece of real Oscar bait that we'll be reviewing for the show, which bold strategy getting it out of the gate so soon. But I mean, there's a lot of early award talks for this film because you've got like 3 huge actors. Yeah, and I'm interested in seeing it. I like Brie Larson, and I would expect this to be a pretty good dramatic film. So let's go watch this pretty good-looking dramatic film with Brie Larson. Let's do it. Woo!
Rich city folk live in fancy apartments, but their air is so polluted they can't even see the stars. We'd have to be out of our minds to trade places with any of them.
So we're back from the apparently emotionally devastating Glass Castle.
I'm just an emotional person, so
why don't you explain how you feel? Well, how did you feel about the movie?
I loved it, honestly. I think it's a really, really good movie, and it does a lot of justice to the book. They were doing like a special thing. If you saw the movie the day, on the Thursday it came out, the author was doing kind of like a... Well,
probably the Friday it comes out.
I wouldn't know if I'd call it like a question and answer kind of thing, but just
she had a small panel.
Yeah, just like discussing the movie.
A small interview, yeah.
And what it meant to her, and like how she felt about certain things, which I really liked, because I feel like being able to see that gives you like another perspective onto how you see the film. But I loved it. I thought the cast was amazing. Not just Brie Larson, because if you haven't noticed by now, I love Brie Larson, but Naomi Watts, Woody Harrelson, all the children that play Jeannette Walls and her siblings, all those kids did an amazing job. Like a really, really good job, because there were some hard things for those kids to do and for them to say. I loved it.
So that's your review. So we're done with the review then.
I mean, you can say what you liked about it. I loved it.
I liked the movie quite a bit. I cannot say I loved the film, but that I feel comes down to your own personal experiences and what you bring into the movie.
And it's not...
Because it is primarily about family dysfunction.
And I would say it's one of those movies, it's not for everyone. Like, some people don't like these kind of, like, I guess, like, emotional type of films. That's what you wanted to call
That's
it?
not what I'm getting at.
Oh.
What I'm getting at is the film is... The topics that it speaks about, the family dysfunction and growing from that and learning from that, I feel you will only, if you have a lot of that in your life, like without getting personal about it, if you have a lot of that in your life, I think this film in a lot of ways speaks to you. And it's a very particular kind of family dysfunction, because I'm not going to say my family is not dysfunctional, but it's weird because Guardians of the Galaxy 2 hit me in a very, very particular way. This film, not as much. And that's not exactly a knock against the film, because I feel like in a lot of ways it hits you different, like, because of you.
Yeah, it hits me differently because of the things I've gone through and like the things I've seen.
Yeah.
And everything.
And so moving beyond that, I felt that the story or the way the story was presented was fine. It was presented exactly how or almost exactly how I thought it would be. It isn't a story that's like, as she's writing it, then she has a flashback of like what she's writing. It's that, but remove the writing element, and it's pretty much that. This is a very weird thing to have to like go into about storytelling, but I feel as if, because of the tone and because of Jeannette's life, that it's something that's very hard to nail as far as a story is concerned. Because it's very difficult to go like, almost impossible in a movie to go like, oh, we're happy, oh, Dad's drunk and now everything has gone to shit. But then find those little specks of happiness within that. That's very difficult to do, especially given whatever you take into the movie might alter your opinion of that. And because of that, in a weird way, like, this is the only time I think in my life I will ever bring this up. This is kind of one of the limitations of cinema. Is in cinema you cannot have that tonal whiplash or it ruins it for you. In a weird way, I think I actually would have preferred if I had had more an hour-and-a-half panel with Jeannette and her family. Because the scene where she is eating with her family and they're discussing some of the stories, I loved that, and I felt like that was much more impactful than actually seeing a recreation of that scene earlier in the film.
So maybe for you, because the book, how the movie's done is pretty much exactly how the book is. Like, it starts off and it does, you go from like scenes in her childhood, all these different things, and then things that happen in her like adult life, and then things when she's a child, teenager, things that happen in her adult life. So the movie... So
the progression is almost the exact same.
Yeah, it's pretty much the exact same. It's been a while since I've read the book, so I know there are probably like a few
You have a pretty good memory for books.
Yeah, there are like a few things they didn't include, like a few things they changed.
And they actually mentioned that in the almost Q&A type session.
Yeah, because Jeannette Walls was like, you know what? That's okay. Everything they did, she loved.
It never strayed from her vision of the book.
This is something she was a little worried, that maybe she'd see the movie and didn't like it, but she says she's very happy with the direction. I feel like, for me, like as someone who loves books, if the author is happy, then sometimes I feel like maybe that's the movie that needed to be made.
Yeah.
Because in the end, like, they're the ones that wrote the book, they're the ones that have the vision for how it's going to be, and so if it's something that they're proud of to have their name attached to, then it's a good thing.
Yeah.
At least I think so.
What
do you think of the actors?
Well, real quick before I get into that, just one more thing, is that I feel that the story, however, does do a very good job, and this will lead into talking about the actors. The story does a very good job of showing the nuances of family dysfunction, especially when there is some sort of mental illness at play. That isn't a thing in the movie, but it's, I don't know, that would probably be one of the best ways to put it.
I guess so, yeah.
And alcoholism. This film is very nuanced with that, and I feel to really pull that off, you did need the actors that you had in the film. Primarily Woody Harrelson and Naomi Watts. I love Brie Larson. She does a great job in the film. She is not given as much to do in that as Woody Harrelson and Naomi Watts. And I think a large part of that is because her parents are played by those two the entire movie. Yeah. Whereas Brie Larson has only the very late adolescent and her adult years.
Yeah, for each kid, there's 3 actors. There's the young one, like middle teenager, and then an adult. Yeah. And I will say the girl who plays like middle Jeannette Walls, who's like 11
she has the most screen time out of the Jeanettes.
The actress Ella Anderson, phenomenal job.
She did do an incredible job.
If I think about it, I'll like tear up because she had some really, really hard scenes, especially with Woody Harrelson, and just the chemistry between the two as like that father-daughter dynamic, and some of the things they have to do, like, it's hard. It is, like, she did not have an easy childhood.
And what I'll say about that is that she does a very good job of relaying the childhood anger and lack of understanding of that nuance that you have as a child. Because as a child, you definitely see things more black and white. But Brie Larson, in her scenes, does a very good job of being able to take a step back and fully examine her life three-dimensionally and see those.
Especially like by the end of the movie, you feel like Jeannette like has grown as a person. Like she's definitely understood more things about her parents and why they did certain things, and I feel like that's a really important message of the movie and of the book itself. Is like, you know, every family, there's a lot of like dysfunction in pretty much all families. Like no family is perfect, and sometimes your parents do things that aren't okay, and they can be toxic people, but sometimes they do teach you lessons that you won't realize when you're a kid or when you're a teenager, even when you're a young adult. Like sometimes it takes years to learn that.
And in a lot of ways, Brie Larson does a very good job of relaying the fact that she now understands that her parents were imperfect people, but that's okay.
Yeah, and I think also it's okay to, like, sometimes to separate yourself from your family and be like, I need to figure things out. Maybe you were toxic or whatever, but I need to figure things out and come back and be like, okay, I don't forgive you 100%, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's a film that definitely deals, as I said, it deals a lot in nuance. It is not black and white. It isn't, oh, you hid the fact that you were an alcoholic because you had to pretend to be someone you weren't, whatever. No, the scenes of her childhood, they were what they were, but it's being able to then examine that and then be able to go, okay, let me process this, let me deal with this. And if I had any problems with the storytelling in that way, is, and this is going to be weird because we can't get too far into it, is that I don't feel like they either gave her husband enough credit or enough screen time.
No, that's kind of honest. If I remember everything from the book right, that's kind of how it is.
But that's the difference.
Okay.
In the book, you might have had more pages to go like, oh no, this is fine. But as a viewer of the film, I felt, okay, I would have preferred to have a little bit more time so that I could have made a decision. I guess, I didn't feel like I had enough time with his character to be able to decide, okay, is he doing this out of love or out of shame? And And that's a minor thing, all things considered. But yeah, this is Woody Harrelson's movie through and through.
He does an amazing job. If it comes to like award season, I'm not saying like give him an Academy Award or anything, but
at least acknowledge the work he did.
In some sort of award or something, at least acknowledge the work he did. Naomi Watts.
And then Naomi Watts, a very close second.
And
she
honestly,
did incredible.
like I said, the middle, Jeannette Walls, Elle Anderson, like she did, I'll say this a million times, she did a really, really good job. And there's one scene I really wish I could talk about, but I don't want to like spoil anything.
What's the scene?
It's hard to explain. Her dad gets injured, and she kind of has to help him out.
Scene. Yeah, that was beautiful the way it was played out.
Say if you see this review and you go see the movie, you'll know what scene I'm talking about. And it, like, I was like emotionally like shook up. It is not an easy thing.
You were shooketh.
Yeah, shooketh. But yeah, any three of those actors, like, they deserve the recognition. I mean, Brie Larson does an amazing job, but I don't think it's her, like, it's not her movie. It's not her chance to shine.
Yeah.
I mean, she does some, like, there are certain scenes she does a really, really good job with, but I feel like Woody Harrelson, like, he nails it. And they'll show, in the credits, they show, like, pictures of the family and everything. Yeah. And you can see, like, the relation.
Was a beautiful part.
And it was so good. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think it's a movie, like, if everyone goes and sees it, that's cool with me. I loved it. It's not everyone's movie, but...
Yeah, I liked I don't feel like the music had a great signature to it, but it did a fine job.
Yeah,
and it was shot very beautifully.
Yeah, and they did film it, they filmed a lot in New Mexico, and I think they also filmed it in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Parts of it, too.
And those particular scenes do feel pretty authentic for that. Yeah, I mean, I think that, me personally, I could have seen this on Netflix and had the same experience. I don't necessarily know if this is a cinematic experience, but it is worth your time and it is worth your money. And if you watch this review and go like, I need that movie, you're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be something that works for you.
I mean, it's not maybe like the movie to definitely see in cinemas, but give it your money. It's one that like, go like get it when it's on video on demand, or go see it in the theater. Like, it's something that I feel like definitely needs your money for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, pretty positive.
Yeah, I love it.
From both of us. And so next week is Logan Lucky. And that is one of my hotly anticipated films for so many reasons, and I will get into all of them next week.
Yep.
Until then, please like this video, subscribe to this channel, youtube.com/glassfilmshouse, facebook.com/glasshousefilms, and Twitter @glasshousefilms. Thank you all for watching this. I appreciate your time and your attention, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep.
Bye.